Hi, I'm Graham, and I'm here with Sam Leccia talking about his new line, the Luchador, and the black and white, a lot of success over the past year. So when we're talking about Charlie, do you ever get, does the Tarano name ever give you an extra something or some sort of credibility, even among your peers?
Yeah. I get that. I think we both benefit from it. I know that the Tarano, family and their relationships have got my brand or myself in a door that I wouldn't have been in as easy, and I think vice versa. I think I've got a lot of good relationships that maybe Tarano hasn't had or whatever. So I think it's a real nice mutual relationship. But what Tarano brings to me is their history, their legacy, their consistency, their just everything. I've always had an incredible amount of respect for the Tarano family and for their cigars. Back when I was in my rep days, I was always digging what they were doing. I always liked their cigars. I mean, they made every cigar for CAO, man, and I think any company that can deal with the craziness that was CAO back in those days could deal with me. So there was really only one guy I wanted to work with whenever I left my former world, and it was the Tarano group, and I'm just glad it's really worked out because really they were number one on my list.
Well, when I look at, and I think Vince probably would agree with this, think of Tarano, I think what comes to mind with all of that brand is that sense of tradition and that sense of history. And here it is. When I think of your brand, I think of contemporary. I think of where we're going as a cigar community in the future, the fire cured, the maybe more daring blends like the Luchador that you're bringing in. And that's a very symbiotic relationship you have going between the two brands. I don't know if that was done on purpose, but it sure has worked out pretty nicely.
Well, I think they continue to be who they are, and they allow me to be me as well. So I think it just is what it is. I haven't changed, and they haven't changed. But I think together, but when I launched Black and White, I invited all the local retailers here for a little party.
That's a great
pre-release party. It's hard for me to really get out and see all those guys as much as I want to, especially when I'm in my hometown. When I'm home, I'm a hermit, man. I got a family. I've got tons of work to do here. So anytime it's not on the schedule and I've got to just wing it and go visit a shop, I don't do it as much. And I should, and I need to work on that. But it's it takes me away from all the shit I got going on.
I think but you get a lot of hometown support, do you not?
You got to earn it, though, man. I do, up until a point where if I don't visit or call, they feel neglected, as they should. Because here they see me in all these other places, and I'm not supporting them. It's not fair. So everywhere you got to earn it, man. But there definitely is a sense of hometown pride here, but you got to earn it.
I would think
nothing's
because
given to you, man.
I feel like the Pittsburgh element when I hear anything about your brand is always a very regular part of Leccia Tobacco.
Pittsburgh's got a weird sense of pride, and I'm part of that. So.
Well, let's start with the Luchador then. Why don't you tell us about how you arrived at the blend of the Luchador and maybe some events you have, because we're only a few weeks away from the official release, which is aptly the 5th of
Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo. That's awesome.
Which many people don't realize is Spanish for 5th of May. Because they're like, when is Cinco de Mayo? That's the 5th of May. When is the 4th of July? It's July 9th.
Who's our grad student?
So, it's funny people don't realize that. And I think I take it for granted that everyone knows what a luchador is and they know how to say it. So,
fair enough.
You're not alone. I was in Kentucky and they were calling it luchador, which sounded, like the devil. And I'm like, that's the last thing I would want you to say. But everyone's got their own way of pronouncing things. But I assume everybody knows what a luchador is, and apparently that's not the case.
So how did you come up with the blend? Because I don't want to say in typical fashion, because you're still a fairly young brand, but you're already with that Kentucky Fire Cure starting to build a reputation for pushing the boundaries on what I'll describe as maybe non-traditional blends?
I don't know. I mean, I guess you could say that. I don't know. I don't look at it, like, I don't try to ever put myself in any categories, you know, because then you kind of have to stick in that category, if you will. And if you do something more traditional, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just don't really try to set a lot of rules for myself. I just try to blend a good cigar, and whatever ends up being in it, if it's creative or cool, I think that only just makes it, you know, more beneficial. But I certainly go into blending to try to make a really good cigar. You know, I don't think it always has to be. I mean, I think different is everything's different. You know, I think it just has to be really good and something that, you know, people can really gravitate to and maybe haven't had, or, you know, just something that gets people excited.
How long does it take? From the start of the process till you got to this last one, how long?
There's no timeline, ever. I think you're always blending, you're always experimenting, and then, you know, sometimes you nail it, or at least you think you nail it. And I'm sure everybody feels that. When I say everyone, I think, you know, other manufacturers or other brand owners, whatever, I'm sure they all feel that they nail it with their blend. At least I would hope so. So there is no set time. Sometimes you can get it quickly. Sometimes you can get it in a week of hard work, you know, every day trying to do it, and then you tweak it, you know, months down the road. And sometimes it takes, you know, a year or two to try to develop something that you're messing with. So there is no timeline. You know, it clicks when it clicks.
So are you constantly, while you're being a road warrior, are you constantly trying new things during that time, or do you set aside time just to center yourself and focus on a particular blend?
Absolutely both. I get blends sent to me, you know, on at least a monthly basis from various factories that I'm currently using, and factories that either, you know, want me to use their factory down the road, or, you know, or I just have a relationship with. So I'm always trying new blends, whether it's stuff that you know, there'll be tobaccos that maybe I'll want to try in a cigar, and so I'll say, look, I'd like to try this, you know, see if we can come up with a blend. But typically I get the most work done when I'm down there, you know. That's usually when it all comes to place. You know, when it all fits in.
How often are you going down there?
I'm never down there enough, you know, because I get so much work done when I'm down there. I feel such a sense of accomplishment when I spend a week down there. But, you know, I equal time between Nicaragua and the Dominican Republic. So
okay.
I would say I'm down there between the two. You know, I get down there. Each place I get down there maybe 5 times a year, which isn't enough. You know, it's never enough.
You could increase that number and have plenty still to do if you wanted to.
There's always so much to do down there. You know, things get done when I'm down there. You know, it's hard to get things done over the phone and through emails. When I'm down there, boxes get made. You know, my ideas, and when I'm trying to explain, you know, how I want something, if I could just show it to you, or if I could be behind your computer and just say, no, let me, this is how you do it. You know, things just get done quicker. I'm very detail oriented when it comes to brands, and I really, I guess when it comes to everything, but those little things are what really, I think, make something good better. Just the little final touches that get overlooked. I really care about those little things that nobody cares about. Those are my critical things.
You have a very loyal, and I would say passionate, fan base. I mean, even our buddy Drew is a great example of, as soon as you post something, he's all over it. And I suspect that he's not the only person doing that.
No, and I mean, that means the world to me, because I'm very passionate about them, you know? I mean, this is what I do for a living. This isn't just some side gig or some hobby. You know, this is how I survive. This is how I provide for my family. So when people are excited about what I do, I'm excited that they're excited. I'm excited I'm doing something that excites them. So I appreciate the hell out of that. And I certainly support them, you know, for supporting me. So it's, you know, I don't brush any of that off, man. I try to respond to every single person that says anything, you know, to me via, you know, social media or any other way. I try to be real interactive with them. I mean, this is what I do.
So for the one or two people that may not know Sam Leccia but are watching this video,
there's more than one or two.
Can we give them an overview of the three primary blends that Lachador Tobacco has out right now?
Well, right now I only have two. I have the black and the white, and then I'm launching a new brand called Lachador
Right.
in May. So as it stands, there's two brands out on the market. There's the black and the white. And black and white was a kind of a project that I wanted to do two very different cigars that could kind of stand on their own and kind of be opposite ends of the palette, so to speak. And I thought really the best way to achieve that was to use two different factories in two different countries. So the white is made in Nicaragua and the black is made in the Dominican Republic. The tobacco I've sourced myself, and I've really generated these blends out of tobaccos that I was either looking for or wasn't. I'm really most proud of the fact that I've not only just put my band on this cigar, that I blended this thing out of tobaccos that weren't necessarily just available from the factory, but were available to anybody that when I say I source tobacco, if you go to some of these large tobacco brokers, it's not some guy in a Lincoln Continental out of the back of his truck with a couple of samples of tobacco. It is literally like 3 airplane hangars loaded with bales of tobacco stacked to the ceiling, and so you ask for anything, chances are they have it. So I had asked for some specific tobaccos with the blending of black and white, things that I certainly like to enjoy. We all have certain blends or tobaccos, at least that we think we like. And so I had asked for some specific tobaccos that I wanted to put the blend around, or at least experiment with. And then of course I asked for things that what are some off the wall stuff? What are some tobaccos that maybe people aren't using or overlooking, or I don't know, just something different. So I've tried German tobacco, Peru, Colombia, which isn't a norm. I mean, there's a lot of Colombian and some cigars, and probably at least some amount of Peruvian, some Russian tobacco, and one was this tobacco that again, how this worked, at least for me, when I went down to these brokers, is it's done ahead of time so that they're prepared for me when I come in. So I'd already, they know what I requested, so they set out the bales for you, so that you have all the information on the year, the grower, and of course all the information on how much is available, because you don't want to, unless I'm making something limited, which at this point doesn't interest me right now. There'll be a time for that, but you want to know what the yield is, and so I want to make a consistent process or a consistent product for a long time. So anyway, there's each bale, and then based on the country, even the bale is different. Some bales are woven fibers, and some bales are like a like a sack, like a burlap. And anyway, it's just neat even seeing the bales. Some are plastic, but it's a very unique system, just how different countries bale their tobacco. But they would process a hand and put it on top of the bale. And really processing, they're just going to add a little water to just kind of wake up the tobacco so that I can really pull out the nuances of even feel the textures, and then get a better nose for what the tobacco has to offer. So it's really kind of neat. Here I am. You see what I'm about. Here's this white kid in Pittsburgh, got a garage, and I go down to Nicaragua, go down to the DR, and I got this kid in a candy store, and here's a bale of tobacco and this beautiful hand of tobacco on top of it. So I get to experiment with it and kind of really get a feel for each individual tobacco. So of course you're grabbing like, yeah, well, all right, this is good. I want to try this. This is good. This is good. And this one bale, the guy started bringing it to me. He started bringing the hand to me. I could smell it from about, I don't know, almost 10 feet away.
Really?
I'm like, what the hell is that? Before I even got to it. And the color and the texture was incredible. I actually have a hand of it. It's in my car. I always try to travel with a hand of this tobacco. I was blown away and intrigued at that very moment. I'll never forget this moment because, look, I think life, whatever, we have a lot of moments, whether they're incredibly memorable or just a little memorable. This was a moment, and it was really special to me. And I thought that if any cigar smoker was standing where I was standing and about to do what I was about to do, that I owed it to them to play with this particular tobacco, because it was the most intriguing out of the bunch. So the guy tells me it's this Italian wrapper, and it's called Darkfina, and I'm just blown away by it. So of course, I had already had a base blend I was working on, and I think it just needed, it just needed a little more. It just needed a little more depth. It just, I liked where it was going, but it wasn't there yet. So I tried this as the wrapper, and it was overpowering. I couldn't taste the tobaccos that I was already liking that was in the blend. So I just kind of kept breaking it down and ended up using it to kind of center the blend. And there's about a half a leaf in it, really. Well, truthfully, it's a half of leaf, which is a quarter of a leaf. But since it's deveined, in a factory, a half a leaf is kind of one leaf.
Okay.
So it's like a half a leaf. So I'm intrigued by it, and I think I like, you just feel it. Your heart starts racing, and you feel like you're on something. And so now it's like, okay, well, how much is this Italian wrapper, and is it available? Because I don't like to put. I like to have a cigar that's somewhat reasonably priced. I'm not in. Again, I'm starting out fresh. I don't want to make $15 cigars, so
right.
It has to make sense too. So I was afraid that with as intriguing as this tobacco was, that it was going to throw my whole project out of whack. So of course you got to get the availability. What kind of consistency can I get out of this, and what the heck does it cost? Well, not that we're anywhere close to finalizing a blend, but now that I realize that I want this tobacco part of it, for 3 days we're calling it Italian wrapper, and it turns out when I was getting the pricing from the broker, that the guy in the warehouse was incorrect. That the Italians buy a lot of this tobacco, but it's called Dark Fire, not Darkfina. It was spelled wrong. Go figure. And it's grown in Kentucky and Tennessee, which I'm like, what? And like, yeah, and it's wood fire cured, etc. So now I was completely naive to the whole dark fire world, or the whole wood fire cured tobacco, like a lot of cigar smokers,
yeah,
at least are. Pipe smokers know a lot about it, and it's not necessarily they've been wood fire curing tobacco since they've been growing tobacco. The Indians used to wood fire cure tobacco. So now where I was already on board and intrigued, now I'm in love, because it's readily available, it's a decent price, and it's really giving me something. It's really making this blend special for me. So, I was real excited. And of course, now I've got to learn all about this. What is this? Like, I like to know everything. It's going into my cigar. I need to know about it. I need to know, what this process is about. And being in the Scotch industry, or in the liquor industry, and knowing my Scotches, it is, almost identical to the same process as to, if you ever had an Isla region single malt, which would be like a Lafroig, a Lagavulin kind of world, their Scotches are considered very, well, the technical term would be peaty, but very smoky. And the reason they say peaty is they use it's a vegetation. It's like a peat moss,
okay,
and it doesn't burn into a flame. It just smokes like crazy. So all that smoke gets into the barley, and when you distill it, you can taste it through the distillation process. So that smokiness stays with it, and it's the same process. This tobacco is hung in a barn, just like regular drying barn. But at the base of this barn is they stoke like a hickory, a oak, hardwood fire, and they keep it so that it's not really burning, that it's smoky, and that this tobacco is in a sense, it's smoked. That's how it's cured. It's just amazing, and it makes the tobacco so consistent. The color, the texture, and the flavor is just very consistent with it. And so, it was really a neat, intriguing thing. And you had asked me, who do I go to, who do I talk to?
Yeah.
Of course, I'm all in on this project now at this point, or at least using this particular tobacco. And and again, no one's using this, and that's kind of cool. And but at the same time, I'm straddling this word that I really despise, and it's gimmick. This isn't. I didn't put this in there to be a gimmick. Again, there's not a cigar guy that was standing there that wouldn't want to burn this thing up.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't like, this will be the gimmick that will get people on board. No, this was something really organic, and something really kind of an amazing moment.
Well, if it were a true gimmick, it's life would be very short-lived. It may get some attention, but it wouldn't continue to survive. And I think in the 8 months that it's been out, I don't think we talk to anybody that doesn't absolutely love that Black Label cigar, and if they had a choice, would make it an everyday smoke.
Well, I would hope so, but I mean, it's obviously still too soon to tell. You know, I certainly enjoy it, and you know, and it's hard to do things that are different on the blending process. You can do all you want on the marketing phase. You know, you can have all kind of, and same with shapes too. You can make different shaped cigars all day and different brands, different bands, different packaging. But it's hard to be creative in the blending process, in my opinion, without doing, you know, flavors or, you know, different, you know, bringing in something non-tobacco related. This is a tobacco that's been around, you know, smoking culture since smoking, you know, existed. So
Yeah.
I'm not bringing anything new per se. You know, it's something very old that I'm reintroducing, you know, to some degree. So you know, it's really worked out. You know, I'm really excited about it.
So what is success? So you say that even for the black and white, you know, you consider it to be very young. I already think of it over the past year as very successful, but you seem reluctant to acknowledge its success. So at what point or what measure do you finally either arrive at some sort of conclusion for it did what I wanted it to do, or it didn't get me all the way there and I have more to be done?
Well, the brand's doing very well, the black and the white, and we need to touch on you know, really the rest of the blending, because I'll answer that question, but you know, the dark fire really makes up the smallest portion, but yet we seem to talk the most about it. But as far as, you know, how do I measure success? I mean, this brand's 8 months old. It still has a lot of work to do. There are still accounts that you know, don't carry it. I mean, granted, we're in over close to 600 accounts.
Wow.
But there are still markets that don't carry it. There are still accounts that carry it, but don't know about it. You know, I can't get to all 600 places. It's hard to really get the information. People that don't know that there's a wood-fire cured tobacco in it. So there's still a lot of information that needs to be put out. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, which is good, you know. So I don't know if I'll ever, I don't know. You'd have to ask me in a few years. But right now, I mean, it's an 8-month-old brand, and I'm working to sell it every day. So.
But 8 months in, you're happy with
the response
where
is
you are.
incredible.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
I would think so, but you seem reluctant to.
Well, look, it's the response is there, but you know, I've got to get the reorders there. There's still a whole lot of other work. Do people like it? People love it, and I certainly love it. But you know, like anything, you got to earn it every day. And so there's a lot of great cigars out on the market. I think right now is one of the best time, with the exception of taxes and bans. It's one of the best time to be a cigar smoker. I think there's incredible blends being made every day by everybody. So, you know, I've got to find a way to get my cigar and other people, you know, in people's hands, because there's a lot of great things out there. So you got to earn it every day.
Is there a particular?
The black is made in the DR. It's a 5-country blend. The wrapper is just a seamless, flawless Habano wrapper. It's grown in Ecuador. The binder is a Nicaraguan Rosado, which is not it's not an uncommon tobacco, but it's not in a lot of blends, and I'm really not sure why. I really tried to force that as the wrapper, because it's kind of borderline wrapper binder grade. And to explain the difference, all binder is wrapper that's just not pretty enough to be on the outside leaf. Binder is critical for the burn of the cigar, and obviously adds flavor to it. I mean, every tobacco adds flavor. People, I even used to say this early on in my days as a rep, that the wrapper gives, you know, whatever, 70–80% of the flavor. If that was the case, we'd all be using the same wrapper, and who gives a shit what's in the filler?
Right.
As you're really getting into blending cigars, every leaf is critical to the entire blend, and the binder is no different. So this binder is real. It's so peppery. It's so tasty. I love black pepper. I put, you know, my eggs are just covered with black pepper, so I'm a big black pepper fan. And granted, the black pepper doesn't come through as much on the binder as it would on the wrapper. The Habano, you know, tames down that black pepper, but it comes through. And when you taste that black pepper, it's not off the wrapper, it's off that binder. But in any case, I was trying to force it, but it's just not pretty enough. you know, there's impurities. There's, you know, the colors aren't. It's just not. It's not consistent enough to look good in a box. You know, so use it as the binder. The filler, I'm using Nicaraguan and Dominican ligeros, which is what gives the cigar its strength.
Right.
I'm using a Brazilian Mata Fina in the filler to give a little bit of a, kind of like a spice to it. Kind of a, spice is such a generic term in our world, you know, because I mean spice could be anything from cinnamon to, you know, nutmeg to, you know, whatever, paprika. But it kind of adds a zest to it. And then, of course, I have the dark fire, which I believe the dark fire, way I like to describe it is it ties the whole blend together. I want you to taste all those tobaccos, those tobaccos from 5 different countries. They're in that blend for a reason, because I can taste them, and I want you to taste them, and they're good. It's not because 5 is a magic number, whatever. You know, it balanced well. You know, I'm sure blenders would give a different idea of what balance brings to a cigar, or what their definition of balance is. And I don't, not necessarily I would even disagree with theirs, but my definition of balance is being able to taste the tobaccos that are in that blend without one overshadowing the other. To me, that's balance. One could come through a little more, you know, but you can still pick up the nuances of the other tobaccos in it. So to me, that's balance. So that's where I started to just keep narrowing down that dark fire so that I can still taste my blend. Because before I was just tasting, it was just too much dark fire, still too much dark fire, still too much dark fire. And, you know, so finally I narrowed it down to, you know, to centering the blend. And I believe it ties the whole blend together. And I like to use the analogy, it's like cilantro in a salsa. It just ties the blend, it just ties the salsa together. It ties the blend. You still taste tomatoes, onions, and garlic and peppers all day. But that cilantro ties it all together. You know, so I believe that the dark fire ties my blend together. It's not the main ingredient. You know, and I've heard people say it's not smoky enough, or, you know, I wasn't trying to, man. I mean, it's when I hear that, yeah, I know. That was the point. I didn't want to make a dark fire cigar. That wasn't my goal. I already had a blend. Was looking for that ingredient that tied it together, and I found it. So, you know, that's kind of how I like to describe, you know, that whole world.
And so, conversely, then you have the white, right? And was the mindset, even from a flavor profile standpoint, you wanted to build something purposely very different? Or was it just of the tobaccos that you were working with, arrived at a different blend?
Well, I wanted the two blends, the black and white, to be very different. Whether or not I was trying to make the most creative blend or whatever individually, you know, I don't know. I mean, I go with what I like and kind of go where you kind of go where the tobacco leads you. You can't force it. You know, it's a natural product, and you're dealing with, you know, different tobacco, so you can't really force your will on that. It kind of takes you where you want to go. But I wanted the black and the white to be very distinctly different. So that, like, kind of this whole opposite ends of the palette thing, I like to say. So the white is an African sun-grown wrapper. It's Cameroon. It's dark. It's rich because it's, you know, sun-grown. Yeah. And truthfully, it was a blend that I had wanted to do. You know, it was one of the first things I did as a hobbyist about, you know, probably 10, 11 years ago. I'm a fan of the Cameroon wrapper. I think to people that don't like Cameroon, and there's not a lot of people that don't like Cameroon, and I think some people that say they don't like Cameroon don't realize how much Cameroon is in cigars that don't mention it. That's one of the reasons I didn't want to put Cameroon or, you know, or African sun-grown, because I don't want. And I'm making it out like there's this negative connotation to it, but it's not. There really isn't.
Yeah, there really isn't.
But in any case, it has a distinct flavor, and I wanted to make, basically, my term was a kick-ass Cameroon. I remember when I was, you know, how I got into this was I used to take cigars apart. I went to a factory tour about 14 years ago, and went into was, you know, part of the whole tour. Went into I just went down with cigar guys. I was in the liquor business, and just, you know, went with a group of guys through a cigar shop down to Honduras, and we had walked through, you know, one of the barns was a Candela barn, and it was actually Christian from Christian Aurora, who, you know, who's no longer with Camacho anymore. That was that was my first. You know, he was the one that kind of showed me around. I credit him a lot for why I'm in the business. Truthfully.
Oh, wow.
He knows that.
I didn't know that story.
I tell him all. I say it all the time. Big fan. You know, I was in the liquor business at that time. I was working for Bacardi. You know, we did Bacardi 8, and Dewar's was also owned by Bacardi, so I was still really heavy into the whole Scotch thing. So, you know, I don't know. He thought that was kind of cool or whatever. So we had a good rapport when I was down there. I didn't know, you know, who he was, and you know, he didn't know who I was. And but in any case, I was a sponge, man. I was real into it. I'd been to the distilleries, you know, being in the liquor business, so I was already in that kind of a world on how that works.
The whole process.
Yeah,
right.
And this one was even cooler. You know, it was just there's so much hands-on throughout the whole process. So anyway, he takes down a candela leaf, he deveins it, and he rewraps two guys' cigars. They're probably smoking a Camacho. What the heck was the big one back then? Corojo.
Okay.
Back in the day. Again, this was 14 years ago. This is probably 3 or 4 package changes ago. Truthfully.
Yeah.
It's a while ago. So the guy started smoking it, and of course they wouldn't shut up about it. It was, you know, it had changed so much. It made such a big deal, and blah blah blah. Well, I wasn't going to try their cigar, but I was really intrigued. So when I went home, I started taking cigars apart. I didn't have tobacco. I never had access to tobacco, but I certainly had cigars. So I would take, you know, a wrapper off a cigar I liked, and I transplant it on a different cigar, and then I would just try to understand, you know, blends and what it is I liked and didn't like. I never really subscribe too much about other people's opinions or other people's reviews or write-ups. I have my own tongue, my own palate. I want to know what makes it good for me, not what makes it good for you.
Right.
So I always wanted to kind of get more involved in the process. So I started taking cigars apart, and one of my first ones that I made that I loved was this super full body Cameroon. This kick-ass Cameroon is what I call it. I actually still have a couple of those down in that humidor. I'll show you later. And that was one of the first cigars I made that I really loved. So now that I've got kind of like this free reign to do what I do, that was one of the first things I wanted to do, was to finally make this thing come to life and make a full-bodied Cameroon. What's crazy is the white was blended to be a full-bodied kick-ass. There's so much Lajero in there, it's not even funny. That Cameroon wrapper tames it down so much that people think that the white is mild and the black is strong. And I think a lot of that has to do with color of the band.
Of the band, yeah.
I think the black band makes the cigar look like it's stronger or fuller. Where if you take the two bands off of the white and the black, the white cigar, that African Cameroon is darker than the Habana. In most cases it is. So that wrapper, that nuttiness and the coffee tones that comes out of the Cameroon or the African sun-grown is what it is. Really overshadows and kind of tames down that Lajero and makes it, you know, I wouldn't say mild, but it tames it down quite a bit. But that cigar was made for strength, and if you know, you don't watch it, creeps up on you. And in fact, if you put a Habano wrapper on that, it's almost unsmokable.
Really?
Yeah. But the white has an African Cameroon or an African sun-grown wrapper. The binder's a Habano grown in Ecuador. The filler has Nicaraguan and Dominican Lajero, and then there's Pennsylvania Seco in it, which, as you're well aware, is our home state. Pennsylvania at one point was the largest grower of tobacco in the world. The word stogie originated in your neck of the woods.
That's right.
Conestoga, PA. They used to call the wagons that carry the tobacco stogie wagons for years, and then they ended up calling the cigars stogies. Some story I read, the Teamsters have a hand in calling them stogies. I don't know if you read the intricacies of the word stogie.
Yeah.
The Teamsters take credit for that because they were the ones driving the wagons and smoking the cigars.
Okay. I could see that then.
I mean, this was this was pre. I mean, this is wagons.
Yeah,
So
wagons.
no, I wanted to use, you know, the Pennsylvania, and it worked really well in the white blend. It really adds just a hint of a little sweetness because it's a Pennsylvania Seco, and you get a little sweetness out of that. It's just a unique flavor, you know, to the blend. So I was real excited about using that Pennsylvania. Now, the white was done first. Like I said, this was a project, you know, quote unquote in the making for, you know, 12 years or so.
Yeah.
I mean, not really, but you know, it was something that I'd wanted to do for that long. So that blend was done first. And then with the black, I wanted to use the Pennsylvania again because, hey, let's do this. And you know, it didn't work out in the blend. And like I said, I don't like to force things. I would have liked to have used Pennsylvania in the black, but everywhere I tried it, it didn't work with the other tobaccos. So boom, it doesn't work. You know, you don't force it. And then when I found out that my Italian wrapper was from Kentucky and Tennessee,
That's amazing.
it was awesome. So now I have an American tobacco in each blend. Each blend, the white and the black, is a 5-country blend that uses one tobacco from the U.S. And that is purely coincidence, which is going to be the best segue we can have for the Luchador.
Absolutely.
Because Luchador, again, coincidence, and I didn't even realize it until I was putting the information on, you know, marketing cards and the website for trying to get, you know, you have to write down the information packet or whatever, what the blend consists of. I didn't realize it until I was putting together, you know, those items, that Luchador is a 5-country blend with one American tobacco in it. And, you know, like, that's amazing. You would never go into a cigar or a blend with that kind of a rule.
That's
just
highly unusual.
Yeah, it's highly
Yeah.
unusual. So, with Luchador being the same format of 5 countries, 1 American, it made me think, well, what the hell was the debut? And some people that might know the debut. The debut was a cigar I tried to launch 2.5 years ago, and you know, whatever, it didn't work. It still exists, and I don't know, I might do something with it, but I'm so, you know, that's yesterday, you know,
Yeah.
I'm ready about tomorrow. I already made that. So it's a 5-country blend, 1 American tobacco. I'm like, is that my style? Is that it? Is this happening organically? Is that my thing? But I promise you, the next blend, you know, if it happens, it still will be coincidence, because no way do I would even want to continue that path. But if it happens organically, it will. So the Luchador, 5 countries, 1 American tobacco, and I'll give you the blend here right now. The wrapper is a San Andreas Maduro. It's Mexico. The binder is a Habano grown in Ecuador. The filler has Honduran Ligero, which I haven't used Honduran in any blend yet, nor have I used San Andreas. The Habano makes for a great binder. It's a real nice burning tobacco, so I'm a big fan of using the Ecuador Habano. So anyway, there's Ligero from Honduras, and I just did like a podcast or something, and I got a question with, you know, do you have any ideas, or you know, you ever have plans on using Honduran tobacco? I don't. You know, sure. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. If it works out, it works out. Like you know, I don't. Anyway, so there's Honduran Ligero. The Pennsylvania tobacco that I have in there is Ligero. It's a Pennsylvania Ligero, which is awesome. Works. It's strong. It's tasty. It's got a different kind of strength. And then there's Ometepe, which Ometepe. There are other companies that have been using Ometepe. Ometepe is an island in the center of Lake Nicaragua, and this island was formed by volcano. Ometepe translates to, I think, 2 volcanoes or 2 mountains, depending on the translation, where all the soil is it's volcanic soil. So it's very, very fertile. It uses little to no fertilizers for the tobacco. And it's kind of the theme with the blend. The San Andreas is also volcanic soil. The Habano is also volcanic soil. So there are 3 tobaccos that are in this blend that are using, the soil that the tobacco is grown in is volcanic soil. So it's a very fertile, very rich soil, for the tobacco to grow in. So again, just kind of another weird twist and theme, that you realize, after you have a finalized product.
That's wild.
So
is this the strongest of the 3 from a flavor profile? Would you call it what we were just talking about, that word spice is overused? That zest that you spoke of, is this the zestiest of the 3?
I would say this will probably translate to the strongest of the 3 blends for sure. The San Andreas wrapper alone is going to lend some strength to the blend. So yeah. I mean, I don't think it's overpowering. I think I always read things about entry level cigars, or you know, it might not be good for a new guy. I don't think there's a guy that couldn't smoke any of my cigars. I don't think they're going to turn him away at all. I think a guy that, you know, has smoked whatever and wants to get into either boutique cigars or into premium cigars, I don't think I'm going to scare him away with anything I make. I don't think they're overpowering or too strong or too anything. I think they're balanced. I think they're, where it is stronger, I still think that when you're dealing with stronger tobaccos, you still have to find a balance amongst those. So I believe that the Luchador has that. And but it's definitely has some, it's like, you know, it's 0 to 60 at a spice pretty quick. I find it to be a very exotic blend. I like to use this word exotic because, you know, the three, you know, volcanic regions, the Ometepe, which isn't, you know, I consider the Ometepe similar to my dark fires, to what it does. I believe that centers the blend, the Ometepe. And then of course this, you know, who the hell is using Ligero from PA, you know, so
that's different.
It really worked out, and it's just exciting. So again, 5 countries, 1 American tobacco, unforced and purely coincidence.
From a Leccia tobacco profiles, you build your catalog of sticks as the company continues to evolve. I don't think I'm being any sort of Nostradamus here. I think you're going to find a lot of people that maybe the black and white that are too smooth for, that are looking for that bite. I mean, this fits your catalog very nicely. It's not another one of the same. You're now going to introduce something else to maybe folks that would have otherwise been reluctant, who say, I do smoke fuller profile cigars now. Leccia Tobacco now has that stick.
I'm glad you brought that up, because strength is the easiest thing to give to a cigar. I think balance and smoothness is the most difficult. And I think anyone that's looking, I think there's always a confusion between strength and, there's full-bodied and then there's strong. To me, full-bodied or well-rounded is, you know, your tongue, your palate has literally 4 senses. It's sweet at the tip, which is why you lick an ice cream cone this way and not this way.
Right.
It's sour on the left, which is why you would eat Sour Patch Kids or whatever on the left side of your mouth. It's salt on the right, and then it's bitter in the back, which is why something you don't like, you taste. It's something that's bitter, or you know, you'll taste longer, but it's on the back of your palate. In the world of whiskey, full-bodied covers that whole palate. That's what a full-bodied Scotch is. It's not strong. I mean, you can just ramp up the, again, just like Scotch, you can just ramp up the proof,
yeah,
and not cut it with so much water and make 150 proof Scotch. I mean, whatever, I'm being silly, but that's easy to add strength. It's hard to get that balance and that smoothness and that roundness. So I think anyone looking for flavor, I think all 3 of these cigars are going to give you a flavor bomb. I think they are well-rounded and full-bodied in flavor. I think the strength is, again, just something it's almost easier to add. You know, just think about, it's just an ingredient. The ingredient that makes it strong is Ligero. I add more of that, I get stronger. So that's not a hard thing to do. I think these cigars are all palatable and smokable, and I think the guy looking for strength, I think if he's overlooking these because he doesn't feel they fit his strength profile, I think he's missing out, because I believe that they're full-bodied with flavor. I think they're going to cover his palate, and he's going to enjoy them. But I do believe that the Luchador is a little stronger, so if a guy's looking for that, you know, yeah, maybe he will. But I think that they all 3 blends complement each other, and yet they're all extremely different. You know, I've got a Habano, as far as wrapper is concerned. I've got a Habano, I've got an African Cameroon, and now I have a Maduro. So it's really not all that crazy. They're just not under one packaging, not under one band, because they're 3 very unique blends.
Absolutely.
We've got, you know, 3 blends. Each one has, again, 5 countries, 1 American tobacco, and between the 3 blends, it's a total of 9 countries that are in these 3 blends. So, you know, there's a lot going on. There's a reason there's all those tobaccos in there. I believe they're very complex. How can it not be complex when you're using, you know, 5 different countries of tobacco in it?